Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to the Cold Sports Takes of the They Are the Greatest Team in NFL History. This is a recap of the football teams that dominate the NFL through their respective season, while showcasing the greatest players and greatest coaches. This segment provides each team case for the greatest team in NFL history. With that being said, let's begin. The 1989 San Francisco 49ers. The 1989 San Francisco 49ers entered the 1989 NFL season as a rare breed, a defending champion in a transitional state. Under the leadership of Bill Walsh and the quarterbacking of Joe Montana, they won the Super Bowl in 1981, 1984, and again in 1988. Even though Walsh had retired after the come-from-behind win over the Cincinnati Bengals to cap the previous year's title run, the expectations at Candlestick Park were the same, to repeat. George Seifert had been elevated from defensive coordinator to head coach. Seifert's brain trust included a new offensive coordinator in Mike Holmgren, who would one day be a head coach and go to 3 Super Bowls, 2 in Green Bay, 1 in Seattle, while winning 1. More importantly, the Niners were stacked on the field. Montana had a well-balanced core of skilled players at his disposal. Roger Craig was a 1,000-yard rusher and a good receiver out of the backfield. Tom Rathman was a steady fullback and led all running backs in receptions in 1989. Jerry Rice was the top receiver in the game and is today acknowledged as the consensus best receiver ever. In his 5th year, Rice was at the top of his game in 1989. That season, Rice caught 82 passes for 1,483 receiving yards and a league-leading 17 touchdowns. If you gave too much attention to Rice, Montana just turned to John Taylor, another good deep threat. Taylor had his breakout season in '89. However, being selected to the Pro Bowl as a punter, Taylor finished the 1989 season with 60 receptions for 1,077 yards and 10 touchdowns. Along with Rice and Taylor, tight end Brent Jones was a solid complement receiver at tight end. Up front was a line anchored by Pro Bowler Guy McIntyre. Defensively, the leader was Hall of Fame free safety Ronnie Lott, and with him in the secondary was cornerback Don Griffin. The defensive front was tough, with Michael Carter on the nose, Kevin Fagan at defensive end, and a hybrid end/linebacker in future Hall of Famer, Charles Haley was a complete havoc-wreaker with 10.5 sacks. San Francisco drew 3 straight road games to start the year, and the first 2 were against bad teams in Indianapolis and Tampa Bay. The third one in Philadelphia was a good test against an Eagles club that had won the NFC East the prior year and would make the postseason again this year. The head coach was Buddy Ryan, the father of current NFL head coach Rex, and the father ran the same aggressive blitzing approach. Montana burned Ryan's defense with a 68-yard touchdown pass to Rice early on, but then for about 2.5 quarters, Philadelphia controlled the flow of play and was in a position to seal the game. A 70-yard touchdown strike from Montana to Taylor put Frisco right back in it, and even though Philly got that TD back, the 49er signal caller eventually took the game over. Montana rifled fourth quarter scoring passes to Rathman, Jones, and Rice in succession, ended up with 428 yards and 5 touchdowns on the afternoon, and the 38-28 win moved the 49ers to 3-0. The Los Angeles Rams came to town and were the one team that could threaten the Niners in the NFC West. Under the leadership of John Robinson, they'd made the playoffs as a wild card in 1983, 1984, 1986, and 1988 while winning the division in 1985. The Rams would be challenging in the West, and they showed why on October 1st. They neutralized San Francisco's offensive weapons and only trailed 6-3 at halftime. Everett found Anderson for a 65-yard touchdown pass to make it 10-6, and later, with the score 10-9, a Niner drive died on the 1-yard line. A Mike Cofer field goal gave San Fran the lead, but Los Angeles eventually took it back and won 13-12. San Francisco went on the road and got back on track by beating New Orleans. They also went to Dallas, on its way to a 1-15 year and start of Jimmy Johnson's rebuilding project. The 49ers had a curious record of 5-0 on the road and 0-1 at home. San Francisco kept winning, and churned its way to 9-1 before a home loss to Green Bay, due to 3 turnovers, set them up at 9-2. 2 big Monday night games were ahead over 3 weeks in late November and early December. One was with the 9-2 New York Giants, the other a visit to Los Angeles. The Niners began their stretch run on November 27, the Monday after Thanksgiving, against the Giants in a fight for the inside track to the number 1 seed in the NFC. Montana threw a pair of short touchdown passes in the first quarter to build a 14-7 lead, and a later scoring pass to Jones helped stretch the lead to 24-10. At this point, New York quarterback Phil Simms fired a pair of scoring passes to tie the game. San Francisco recovered and got the game's final 10 points, the big difference being that Simms threw 3 interceptions to Montana's 0. Los Angeles was out of the division race but still pushing for a playoff berth when San Francisco brought their 11-2 record to town. The Rams were ready out of the gate, striking for a 17-0 lead in the first quarter. Montana then hit Taylor on a 92-yard touchdown pass, and a field goal cut the lead to 17-10. Los Angeles had a counterpunch ready, moving ahead 24-10 by the end of 3 quarters and kicking a field goal early in the fourth that seemed to put the game under wraps. Montana found Jones for a 7-yard TD pass and then, pinned inside his 5-yard line, threw another touchdown pass to Taylor from 96 yards. Even though a crucial pat was missed, the master wouldn't be stopped now. Montana would throw for an MNF record of 458 yards before the night was over and eventually set up a 1-yard run by Roger Craig that delivered a stunning 30-27 win. It all but secured home field advantage, and the 49ers closed the season with a couple more wins that gave them a 14-2 record going into the playoffs. Montana's 1989 NFL MVP season was among the most impressive in NFL history. He threw for 3,521 yards, 26 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. He had a passer rating of 112.4, breaking the highest record ever. Minnesota had become a familiar opponent for San Francisco in the divisional round. The Vikings had come to Candlestick in 1987 as a solid underdog and pulled an upset. They came to 1988 as a respected underdog and lost in a blowout. Now they were here for a third straight time. Minnesota's defensive line was the strength of its team, with outstanding pass rushers at the defensive end in Chris Dolman and Al Noga. Defensive tackle Keith Millard was another elite talent. Running the ball and protecting the passer were serious problems against this D. They had a pair of Pro Bowlers in the secondary and corner Carl Lee and strong safety Joey Browner. It all boiled down to the fact that Minnesota was a team many observers respected for their talent, especially defensively, and just wondered if they could make it count in the postseason. No one doubted Montana's ability to make it count in the postseason. After spotting Minnesota an early field goal, Montana hit Rice for a 72-yard TD strike to make it 7-3 at the quarter. In the second quarter, the QB broke it open. He threw 3 touchdown passes, spreading it to Jones, Taylor, and Rice. It was 27-3 going into the half, and with a second straight playoff blowout, San Francisco was sending a clear message to Minnesota about who the top dog in the NFC was. Lott completed the news in the second half, taking an interception 58 yards to the house, and the final score was 41-13. Los Angeles had surprised observers with a challenging run through the NFC East. They'd gone to Philadelphia for the wildcard game, gotten a win, and then beat New York in overtime to make it to the NFC Championship game. Just as the Niners had in the first playoff game, they spotted an early field goal. It might have been 10-0, but the play this game is remembered for is Ronnie Lott running towards a wide-open Flipper Anderson near the goal line and batting away a pass at the final moment. It was the last joyous moment for the Rams all afternoon. By the second quarter, San Francisco had gotten into a rhythm, with Montana hitting Jones from 20 yards out and Taylor from 18, sandwiched around a short TD run from Craig. The defense took over, intercepting Everett 3 times while being constantly pressured. San Francisco, meanwhile, ran for 179 yards, while Montana went 26 for 30 for 268 yards and 0 picks. Another Super Bowl trip awaited, as the Niners were booked for New Orleans. The Denver Broncos were making their third Super Bowl appearance in 4 years, under the coaching of Dan Reeves and led by quarterback John Elway. As good as Elway was, there was no Super Bowl caliber talent around him, and it was all he could do to reach this point. Denver had an excellent rookie running back in Bobby Humphrey, a good receiver in Vance Johnson, and 3 Pro Bowlers on defense. Still, there needed to be more natural talent in the offensive line or the secondary, which showed on Super Bowl Sunday. Elway was sacked 6 times, the running game was non-existent, and San Francisco dominated this one from the outset. Montana threw 3 first-half touchdown passes to make it 27-3 at intermission. He threw 2 more in the second half, the final was 55-10. The quarterback completed the postseason going 66 for 84, 79%, for 806 yards, 11 touchdowns, and no interceptions. It was more than just a Super Bowl title for the 1989 San Francisco 49ers. It was more than just sealing their claim to be the team of the 1980s with a 4th championship. The 49ers outscored their opponents in 3 playoff games, 126-26, for an average score of 42-9. It was nothing more than the complete obliteration of the rest of the NFL. In the comment section, let me know about your take on the 1989 49ers.